Prabhupada Paramahamsa Parivrajakaacharya Ashtotar Satashri Srimad Abhayachanaravindha Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakaacharya Ashtotar Satashri Srimad Abhayachanaravindha Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Nama Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपी गो श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय, मथुरा धाम की जय, मायापुर धाम की जय, नवदीप धाम की जय, गंगा मई की जय, यमुना मई की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, तुलसी महारानी की जय, समवेता भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री चैतन्य चरितामृत की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vikas Swaminiti Namane Nama. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gaurvani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschati Desh. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Okay, so reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela, chapter 21, text 30. Okay. Apara Aishwarya Krishnera Nahika Ganana Shakha Chandra Nyaye Kari Dig Darashana. Apara Aishwarya Krishner Nahika Ganana. Apara Aishwarya Krishner Nahika Ganana. Shakha Chandra Nyaye Kari Digdarashana. Shakha Chandra Nyaye Kari Digdarashana. Apara Aishwarya Krishnera Nahika Ganana. Shakha Chandra Nyaye Kari Digdarashana. Apara Aishwarya Krishnera Nahika Ganana. Shakha Chandra Nyaye Kari Digdarashana. Please repeat. Para Aishwarya Krishnera Nahika Ganana. Shakha Chandra Nyaye Kari Digdarashana. Para Aishwarya Krishnera Nahika Ganana. Shakha Chandra Nyaye Kari Digdarashana. Para Aishwarya Krishnera Nahika Ganana. Shakha Chandra Nyaye Kari Digdarashana. Mataji's. Para Aishwarya Krishnera Nahika Ganana Shakha Chandra Nyaya Kori Digdarashana. Okay, word to word meanings. Apara, unlimited. Aishwarya, opulence. Krishnera, of Lord Krishna. Nahika Ganana, there is no estimation. Shakha Chandra Nyaye, according to the logic of seeing the moon through the branches of a tree. Kari, I make. Digdarashana, an indication only. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. No one can estimate the opulence of Krishna. That is unlimited. However, just as one sees the moon through the branches of a tree, I wish to give a little indication. First, purport. First, a child is shown the branches of a tree. Then he is shown the moon through the branches. This is called Shaka Chandra Nyaya. The idea is that first one must be given a simpler example. Then the more difficult background is explained. Om Jnanati Mirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Supadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagar Jatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sujivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Apara Aishwarya Krishnera Nahika Ganana Shaka Chandra Nyaye Kari Digdarshana. No one can estimate the opulence of Krishna, that is unlimited. However, just as one sees the moon through the branches of a tree, I wish to give a little indication. Okay. All right. Thank you. So I would like to thank the devotees and management of New Simhachalam for kindly allowing us to visit and giving us an opportunity to make ourselves a little useful. So, Hare Krishna. And so here we are reading the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Srila Sanatana Goswami. And over here, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is beginning to describe the different incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is a display of His opulence. This is a very interesting point. Generally, when we think of opulence, we think of wealth, maybe some display of magnificent, so there's the different kinds of opulences, right? You have beauty, you have wealth, you have renunciation, you have knowledge. So we have these six, etc. We have these six, and these are generally called opulences. You wouldn't necessarily connect that with the incarnations of the Supreme Lord, but the incarnations of the Supreme Lord are actually His opulence. Why? Because it is through these incarnations that the Supreme Lord displays those six opulences. If the incarnations weren't there, which means that the Supreme Lord did not have a form, how would the Supreme Lord describe, how would the Supreme Lord exhibit his six opulences? This is a very, very important argument against Vedic impersonalists, that it is stated in Shastra that the Supreme Lord is the possessor of six opulences in full. But if he is formless, nameless, if he is beyond all forms of description, if he is, as they say, without qualities, then how is opulence described? Because being possessed of a lot of wealth, being possessed of a lot of beauty, this is a quality. So that means that the Supreme Lord is not impersonal. And Supreme Lord exhibits his opulences through the different incarnations. Another way to understand this opulence is that the incarnations of the Supreme Lord describe his different moods. Now, even we as persons have different moods. And sometimes when a person has a particular mood that is either unusual or a side of him that he generally does not display, at that time one may see that particular person and say, he's completely a different person right now. Like, he's so different. It's the same person, same body. Everybody realizes he's the same person. But still he feels like a different person because of his different mood. Now, in one sense, we are limited in exhibiting our mood by this body that we have. Say somebody wants to be really angry. There is a difference when a person who is very thin and frail, when they exhibit anger, and say somebody who's very muscular and very big, when they become angry, the difference in how terrifying it feels is quite stark. Somebody is really big, really huge, and he's throwing a tantrum, like he's throwing a fit, then people start to back away. But, say a child is throwing a tantrum, people just go up to the child is thinking, I'm going to really, really throw a huge tantrum right now because I am not getting what I want. But most of the people just ignore the child, and the parent just generally takes the child away somewhere so it's not cause a disturbance. Right? But if some big, muscular person, is throwing a fit, then, everybody's attention turns to that person, gets fearful. So we are limited in how much we are able to exhibit our mood with this body. But Supreme Lord is not limited. When he wants to exhibit anger, he comes as Nrsimha. And nobody can exhibit anger as perfectly as Nrsimhadev. I mean, it's just fantastic the way Supreme Lord exhibits his anger in the form of Nrsimhadev. One of my favorite paintings in that regard is to see a form of Nrsimha where it's a painting where he's having several arms, and all the soldiers and servants of Hiranyakashipu are rushing to him. And, Nrsimhadev is grabbing different ones there's one that he's grabbed his head like this and literally crushing his head over there. And others he's flinging some aside, and there's all these weapons. And also you'll see that the Anantasesh is behind him, throwing flames, spitting fire from his mouth. Is really it's magnificent. And that's not even the full display. Shastra describes that the form of Nrsimha was so much bigger than Hiranyakashipu. So much bigger. And when he broke out of the pillar, stambhe sabhayam namragam namanusham, that when he broke out of the pillar, the sound was so terrific, that it is said that the demigods became very anxious, very scared as to what is this, has the end of the world arrived. So this is crazy anger, because if somebody throws a fit in the temple room, maybe you may feel it's the end of your life. But you're not, but the neighbor is not going to think that the world has ended or something like that. But Nrsimhadeva's anger is so terrifying that it went across, different planetary systems. So this is opulence of the Supreme Lord. This is his opulence. He can exhibit his mood perfectly in a form that is perfectly suited for that. Whereas you just see the contrast when he takes the form of Mohini, completely bewildering, so perfectly bewildering that when Lord Shiva sees Mohini, even Lord Shiva becomes bewildered. Who's Shiva? Shiva is fully in control. He cannot be bewildered. He's so much in control that Srila Prabhupada would quote the story from Kalidasa's Kumara Sambhava, that when the demigods wanted Lord Shiva to give birth to Skanda, Subramanya, Kartikeya, who would become the commander-in-chief of the armies, they sent Parvati, the daughter of the Himalayas. And how did she go? She's extremely beautiful. Why? Because she's Durga. Durga Devi is Maya herself. Is Maya herself. And she goes dressed very beautifully and touches the private parts of Lord Shiva as he's engaged in penance. And Shiva is completely unperturbed. Because, such a beautiful woman touching private parts is crazy, But this is Lord Shiva, how controlled. And for him, Mohini Murti bewildered him. Because that is the opulence of the Supreme Lord. When he wants to display a mood, he can take a form that's so perfectly suited for that purpose. So this is, and how many moods can a person have? Some moods, maybe some characteristics. There's certain moods that we cannot exhibit. There's some people, even if they want to really be angry, nobody really takes them seriously. It doesn't even feel like they're angry. And then there are others who don't know how to be peaceful. They're always angry. So there is limitations to how many moods we can exhibit. Not only can we not perfectly exhibit the mood, but we can't even exhibit all the different moods. But Supreme Lord Krishna has asankheya. He has unlimited moods, unlimited varieties of moods. Therefore, to enjoy all the different varieties of moods, because there is enjoyment in each of these moods. There is pleasure found in being angry. There is pleasure found in being peaceful. There is pleasure found in bewilderment. There is pleasure found in joking. For all of these different moods, Supreme Lord accepts different forms, different incarnations. Sometimes in one incarnation he can exhibit different moods. That's his opulence again. But the point is that because of this, he has unlimited incarnations. His opulence is unlimited, therefore his incarnations are unlimited. His moods are also unlimited, therefore his incarnations are unlimited. So, how can we, who are limited, our mind and intelligence being limited, how can we grasp that which is unlimited? So that is the subject of this verse. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives a very wonderful example known as Shaka Chandra Nyaya, that one can see the moon through the branches of a tree. What does that mean? It generally means, the way you can understand this is sometimes it is difficult to see a particular object. Like, say you're trying to identify something in a distance and you're trying to show someone that particular object which is situated at a distance. You are able to see it, but they are not able to see it because there are so many things and they are not able to see. So what you do is you start pointing to bigger, not necessarily bigger, but more prominent objects that are visible to that particular person. And then you point and you see, okay, you look over there, just to the left of that. Do you not see that? So this is called Shaka Chandra Nyaya, that the moon is hidden behind the branches of the tree. The person who knows what a moon is able to see the moon. But to a person who doesn't know what the moon is, and to differentiate that moon as not being part of the tree, but just to show that the moon exists in between the tree, then the logic is very important, that the moon is not caught between the branches of the tree. The moon is actually much bigger and far more transcendental than the branches of the tree. But right now, the person is able to see the tree. He has no conception of the moon. So, to a child, you see that white thing in between the branches of the tree. You see how the branches are moving, but the moon is not moving. That white object is not moving. That is the moon. So this is called Shaka Chandra Nyaya. And what does this mean? It means that with the help of something that is inferior, but something that is understandable right now, that which is superior and beyond one's understanding can be perceived. This is the point. That Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying that although Supreme Lord is unlimited, He has several unlimited incarnations, His opulences are unlimited. Through this logic of Shaka Chandra Nyaya, we can understand the Supreme Lord's different incarnations. Just like right now we are discussing about different moods and how a person can get angry. But a person throwing a fit in this room versus Nrsimhadeva's anger is completely different. It's literally incomparable. It's just incomparable. You cannot understand, but you get some idea. You get some small conception, some idea. So this is a very, very important point that Srila Prabhupada, he states this to Bhagavan Das. And he says, concerning our use of analogy, we do not bring in imperfect analogy, but we follow the instructions of the Shastra strictly. So, Shastra is there. Why do we have to bring in analogy? We don't follow imperfect analogy. Our authority is on the basis of Shastra, not an analogy. So, Vyasadeva, while giving the history of creation, says, Janmadhyasya Adi Kavaye. So, he impregnated the heart of Brahma with all the designs of creation. So, what is wrong there? If I instruct someone, you do like this, he does it, then what is the difficulty? This is the system. Our authority is Shastra. We give analogy for the general mass of people who have no faith in Shastra. Analogy is not proof. Shastra is proof. Foolish people cannot understand or accept, so we use analogy. The conclusion is not drawn from analogy, but from the Shastra. This is a very, very, very important point to understand, that Vaishnavas use analogies. Mayavadis, impersonalists, also use analogies. What is the difference? The difference is that we use analogies, which are examples, to explain a particular point, to substantiate Shastra, to explain philosophy. We don't derive philosophy from analogies and examples. We don't derive philosophy from analogies and examples. This is a very, very important point to understand, because this is exactly what the Mayavadis do. For instance, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Rasoham apsu kauntaya. Right? What does that mean? That means Krishna says, I am the taste of water. So, Krishna says, I am the taste of water. Does that mean God is water? Yes? No? Krishna is saying, I am the taste of water. So is God water? Yes? No? He is all. So the first point is Krishna is saying, I'm the taste of water. He's not saying he's water. This is a very, very important point to understand. In the particular thing I'm stating, this is a typical example of how analogy is misused. Krishna is saying, I am the taste of water. He didn't say, I am water. He is the taste in water. Now, the thing is, analogies or examples like this that Krishna gives of his opulence, because Krishna is giving different examples of his opulences, is meant to understand how great Krishna is. Not that Krishna is as limited as water. Yes, he is water in the sense that water is his energy, and in one sense, the energy, because it comes from the energetic, therefore the energy and the energetic in one sense are together and non-different. But it doesn't mean that the energy and the energetic are one in everything. That what Mayavadis and those jnanis, those who are interested in mental speculation, what they end up doing is they take examples, just pick that out of Shastra and then start building on these examples. For instance, what is the meaning of the word Krishna? All attractive. You know another meaning of the word Krishna? Draupadi, one of her names, is Krishna. Why? She's black. That's revelation for those who might not know. Actually, Draupadi and Arjuna are both black. But the paintings are not in that sense perfectly accurate. But Prabhupada accepted it, so it's fine. But technically, in the Mahabharata, Draupadi, one of the most beautiful women in the world, is black. And Arjuna is also black. So, the word Krishna also means black or dark. Now, what the Mayavadis say, Krishna means black. Black means dark. Dark means nothing. Therefore, God is formless. This is called, now they'll say this is based on Shastra. They'll say this is based on Bhagavad Gita, this is based on Mahabharata. They'll say like this. It's not. Even though the first thing that they have taken, which is the word Krishna, comes from Shastra, everything else that they have added on it is all their speculation. And this is not Shaka Chandra Nyaya. Shaka Chandra Nyaya is used to establish Shastra. Not that one builds upon an example that has been given in Shastra in order to establish one's own mental concoctions and conclusions. So this is a very, very, very important point to understand, that we use analogies to establish what is there in Shastra. And therefore, it's very helpful to generally use the examples that are given by our acharyas. It's tempting to come up with our own examples. But the problem with coming with our own examples is sometimes the point is not communicated perfectly. Can anybody think of an example that's found in Shastra of the soul and the body? Vehicle, right? You have a vehicle, and so what is the vehicle? Vehicles is the body. And what is the soul? Is the person driving. It's not the engine. It's the person driving. Why? Because if the person is not driving, then the car doesn't function. So it's a very good example. Srila Prabhupada, actually this is found in Shastra, because Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Yantra Rudani Mayaya. This body is yantra. It is a machine of Maya, Maya's machine. So, this is a very good example. Now, one devotee came up with another example. What is another example? He said, see, the body is like a phone, and the soul is like the SIM card. Good analogy? Good? Yes? No? The phone works. See, when he gave the analogy, that was, back when you had these Nokia phones or these Samsung phones, a touch phone, where you had to put the SIM card in. I heard this example back in 2011. There were not like this kind of small, phones at that time. We were still using these phones where you had to put the SIM card inside the phone. Otherwise, the phone you can't really do anything with the phone. You didn't have like all these things but now you don't need a SIM card to use a phone. You can call over Wi-Fi. Right? So the example is defective. So, but it's, and we have to also understand one thing, that material examples by nature are limited. They don't explain everything completely. Like even in the example of the car and the passenger, we're not talking about which race the passenger is. Oh, wait, the passenger has a gender. Therefore, soul also has gender. Passenger has race. Therefore, soul also has a race. No, soul doesn't have race. Race is for the body. This is where, when one thinks too much about the example, one loses the point. The point in Shastra is just to give an example as to how important the soul is in relation to the body. That without the soul, the body doesn't function. Even though there may be self-driving cars, the point is, without the soul, the body doesn't function. Whether you have self-driving cars or you don't have self-driving cars, the body cannot function without the soul. So, Vaishnavas are very, very eager to establish things according to Shastra. And they limit their analogies only to the extent that is required, because analogies are ultimately imperfect. And because we struggle to understand what is stated in Shastra without analogies, why? Why do we struggle to accept Shastra without analogies? Because we lack faith. We need some level of reasoning to be able to accept that which is in Shastra. So therefore, Shastra contains such reasoning. Because if we just state, just like, it's not very satisfying, we understand from Shastra that God is great. Right? God is great. Krishna is great. He is most powerful. But it's not satisfying. You need to understand how Krishna is powerful. So, not only does that establish faith for us, but it also gives us a perfect understanding of God, whereby we can develop a relationship with God. We can understand. Otherwise, how can you love a person if you don't know anything about him? So that is another problem with the non-Vedic religions and scriptures, is they don't give much information. Srila Prabhupada said, we know God's name. We know how God looks. We have his address. We even know his girlfriend. Do you know? If you know all these things, then tell me. But you don't know. You don't know anything about your God. So, this is the superior, this is how in-depth, wonderful and exalted the Vedic texts are, especially Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. And of course, Chaitanya Charitamrita. So, another point about, and analogies are, they are sometimes limited to time, place, circumstance. Anybody can think of an example that a little hard to relate to in today's world, but we find that in Shastra. Anything that somebody can think of? Any analogy that we read, but little difficult to understand today.
If I remember correctly, there's one who says that among mountains and Mount Meru.
Good one. Mountains are Meru. We don't even know what Meru is. We don't know where Meru is. We never heard of this word Meru. So, that's a good one. You know, one thing I was thinking of, very common one. One should serve the Supreme Lord faithfully, just as a wife serves her husband. Have we read this? Have we read this? Little difficult to understand in today's world, is it not? No? To find, first of all, to find a qualified husband is difficult. Then to find a wife who's faithful to him is difficult. And then to see that she is faithfully serving him, it's hard to see this. We read of those examples in Shastra. There are today also, but we generally come in, it's hard to understand. Or, you know, when we try to describe selfless love, what is the material example of the most selfless love? Yes, the mother. But today's mothers, they kill their child in the womb. What sort of selfless love is that? There's no selfless love, actually. So, in these ways also, we should understand the limitations of analogies. Just because, and some people, unfortunately, they may look at this example and get so turned off that they reject Shastra also. This is a big mistake. Because you have to understand that these examples are just being given to drive a particular point home. It's not that this example is all in all. And therefore, it's very important to not throw the baby out with the bathwater. There is a phrase like this: throw the baby out. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You're bathing a baby in a bucket. So, the baby is in the bucket, you use soap, everything. So now the water is dirty. You need to throw the water out. Now, because you need to throw the water out, you don't throw the baby out also with the water. You take the baby and you throw the bathwater out. So, similarly, just because one is not able to understand or appreciate or relate to a particular analogy, one should not make the mistake of rejecting Shastra. So this is a very important point to understand. Shastra, as Srila Prabhupada states in, I think we are in chapter 20? 21. Okay, so in the previous verse, the previous chapter, text 351, Srila Prabhupada makes the point that among Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, the center is Shastra. Shastra is the center. Ultimately, Guru and Sadhu have validity because of Shastra. Why? Because Shastra comes from Krishna. And finally, one last point I wanted to make was that another advantage of these analogies is that one understands Vedic culture through these analogies. Many analogies are actually from cultural contexts. And by understanding these analogies, one understands culture. One can relate to such culture. That, okay, this is how cultured people speak. This is what kind of examples they use. This is the kind of activity that was going on in those days. Therefore, such analogies can be used. And these analogies are generally indicative of life in Vedic culture. And since Srila Prabhupada has given us the mandate to establish Varnashram Dharma, it's very helpful to analyze these kind of examples from a cultural context, and thereby understanding how they might be relevant to a sattvic and more conducive form of practicing of living life that will help us practice Krishna consciousness nicely. So I'll stop my class here. If there are any questions or comments, please feel free to ask. Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you very much for your very nice class. Particularly on this last point, I was thinking about Shastra being more important than Sadhu and Guru. I was thinking that Shastra anyway are there, and especially in this age, we are not so able to understand Shastra. So in one way I see it, okay, but without Sadhu and Guru, the Shastra are almost useless for
That is
us.
correct.
And at least from Sadhu Guru, maybe if they don't have maybe access to Shastra, we can still learn some qualities from them, some great quality. So I was thinking if you could comment on that. Or what?
Okay. Do you want to translate the question? Or? So, ultimately, a genuine guru and sadhu ultimately leads one to Shastra. They have to. Because otherwise, they are bogus. When a guru explains that Krishna has created this world, and he is like we said, he is the ultimate authority. How is morality determined? I don't determine morality. Morality, what is right and what is wrong, which is one of the things a guru teaches. What should be done, what should not be done. How does he establish what he is speaking? He says, no, this is not my opinion. This is the opinion of my spiritual master. But it is not just the opinion of my spiritual master. It is the opinion of all the predecessor acharyas. And it is not just the opinion of the predecessor acharyas. It is not some lineage of culty people who came up with some idea. But this is based on what Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has created this entire universe, that it is his opinion. So, therefore, for instance, when Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, this is my opinion, he says that many times. What is it? Yoginam api sarvesham madgatena antaratmanam shraddhavan bhajate omam same yuktatamo mataha. Mataha means my opinion. Krishna says, among all the different yogis, one who is worshipping me with devotion, he is the most supreme. This is my opinion. Oh, it's Krishna's opinion. My opinion is that my dog is better. My dog is the best yogi. No, your opinion is useless. What is the worth? What is the value of your opinion? So, in order for Guru and Sadhu to establish that they are Guru and Sadhu, they require Shastra. Otherwise, you cannot establish. Guru does not say, I am Guru because I am Guru, because I say I am a Guru. No. But that's what actually bogus gurus do. But genuine Guru will not do that. So Shastra is still center. Anything else? Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. I had two questions. One was about the opinion. Maybe you just mentioned it, but I couldn't understand. If someone says it's their opinion, even if it's Krishna, why should someone believe an opinion and not something that's a fact?
So, why should someone believe an opinion? Because the opinions of those who are authorities are not to be just taken as equal to the opinions of any Tom, Dick, and Harry. Okay, some expert who is, say a nuclear scientist, very intelligent, studied everything, nuclear, thing. He says that this is a radioactive zone. In my opinion, if you go there, you will get cancer. And some person who just walked in the door, who don't even know who he is, he said, in my opinion, if you go there, whatever, ice cream will grow out of your hair. But what is the value of his opinion versus the opinion of someone who is expert in that field? Now, when Krishna says his opinion, already Krishna has established in Bhagavad Gita, I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Arjuna has also confirmed that Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Arjuna quotes Asita, Devala, Narada, etc. have also confirmed that Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead. That means Krishna is expert in everything. Therefore, his opinion on everything is the supreme opinion. Therefore, it is a fact. It must be taken so. Even though, because Krishna is a person, when he speaks, he may say, this is my opinion. It's usage of words. Because every time when a person speaks, even an authority, every time if they always speak in an authoritative way, it doesn't feel nice. In a conversation, even though you are making a point, sometimes you say, it is my opinion. It is a use of language. But when you are expert, that opinion has to be taken very seriously. It doesn't mean that just because he's saying his opinion, he's unsure of what he's speaking.
Thank you. And now it's very clear. And also the second question was about the selfless love. I think so. In today's world, I spend a lot of time with Mayavadi people. So anytime I get a chance to come to the temple, I'm very grateful. But most of my time I spend with people who are not in Krishna consciousness, and so sometimes I try to preach to them. And if I ever say something about selfless love, they always say something about there's no reason for them to perform selfless love, or if someone wronged them, then they are kind of standoffish. So what can I say instead, or what is a reason for them to do selfless love in this yuga?
I mean, a reason is that anybody can understand that an act performed without something expected in return is glorified in this world. Okay, if some big billionaire like Bill Gates who's supposed to be very charitable, but why do many people not accept he is charitable? Many people don't think he's charitable because they think that in the name of his charitable activities, he is just expanding another area of business. What does that mean? It becomes a business transaction. Then why not glorify that? Because it's a business. People glorify charity when they think that nothing is got in return. Although in the material world, most of the wealthy people, they don't perform charity without getting something in return. But they just don't openly talk about that. So, and why is it glorified? Because there is great pleasure to be found in doing that. There is great pleasure that one experiences. It's temporary, it's material, but still it has some more value. That when someone just gives something to someone, say a donation to someone, even though they didn't get anything out of it, they feel good. I did something good. I am a noble person.
Is that still selfless though? Because
Huh?
I feel good. Is that still selfless? Because
I mean, it's selfless in the sense that one didn't expect anything back, but yeah, one can become proud because of that. And that's another problem. But the fact that one didn't expect, okay, I'm going to give you this, and you have to do this in return for me. In that sense, that since that wasn't there, that is selfless. Now, why is the mother given the best example? Because the mother tolerates so much for the child. And technically, all she wants is just to see the child happy. She doesn't expect, she doesn't do all that. A genuine mother doesn't do all that with the calculation that this child is going to grow up and give me a lot of money or something like this. So in that sense, the love of a mother towards her child is very, very selfless, because the child initially is very selfish. Children are extremely selfish and very self-centered. And the mother has so much affection for this really selfish, because I've heard from mothers. I actually was reading a book by a devotee, my god sister. She was saying how after she got a child, she really felt drawn affectionately to the pain that a child feels when it's crying. That no longer did she feel angry and agitated when a child that wasn't hers was screaming in the train or a flight. She just felt, oh, poor child, poor parents. But until she had a child, she didn't feel like that. You know, this child is screaming at the top of the voice, you know, and you're in the train or plane, and you just can't do anything because, you know, it's just screaming, you know. You just feel like, you know, is there something that can be done to, like, you know, feel angry? But she said, in her own experience, she didn't feel like that anymore. Why am I making that point? Because it's very clear. You can understand the difference, you know, because otherwise something that is extremely annoying has suddenly become very pleasurable.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Should probably end here. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vancha kalpatrubhyascha kripa sindubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.